Welcome to the Edition Wars podcast, where we take a deep dive into the mechanics and play styles of all of the editions of our favorite game. We look at what worked really well, what worked not so well, and the things that led to better games. And we talk about it all. In this episode, we're going to discuss Economies in your D&D game. This has been a quite lengthy series, but we are almost done. I believe we will get through both 4th and 5th edition this episode. What do you think, Brandis?
Well, Sam, are we going to stay on topic tonight?
Probably not.
There we go. That is a correct answer. Yeah, right, yeah. I don't see why we'd learn how now.
Yeah, I mean, it has no value.
Indeed.
The economy of learning how to not digress is, there's no ROI.
Well, right, like, my word count is not going into recession, folks.
Exactly. Well, I am Sam Dillon, and as one of your hosts, I will introduce Brandis Stoddard, my co-host, who is going to start the discussion this evening.
Thank you very much, Sam. So last time we covered mostly 3.5. There weren't a ton of changes in the game economy between 3.0 and 3.5. There are some additional developments, especially as you get into Eberron and its whole approach to artificers and such, but it's neither here nor there. In 4th, the approach to the economy is doing a lot of the same stuff as you see in 3rd edition, but it doesn't have it's been adjusted and shifted around, and some of the conceptual values of things have changed in ways that do wind up mattering. And so in a lot of ways, this is as much a conversation about magic items and how you're allowed to use them as it's a conversation about cash on the nail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because last time we talked about how in 3rd edition, your gold piece income and the captured gear you sold from fights to get more cash was a kind of experience point bar for your magic items, because you were expecting to improve your magic items, and that was a big part of the whole deal. That's still true in 4th, and we gave some nods to that in our conversation last time, but the ways that magic items are created and the ways that you can improve them, I guess more importantly, the ways you can't improve them in 4th, do make a material difference. There are also some whole new vectors of improvement that just weren't on anyone's radar in 3rd. That wasn't a thing at all. And so I want to get into a whole bunch of those. So I'm going to start with the 4th edition Player's Handbook to talk about some of the economic stuff here. 4th edition is one of the many things that makes 4th edition an unusual standout is that it actively regards magic items as player-facing rather than DM-facing content. There's a chapter on magic items that you can and should expect to find in the Player's Handbook, in the Player's Handbook 2, in the Player's Handbook 3, and then implicitly Adventurer's Vault and Adventurer's Vault 2 and the Morden Canaan's book, right? Those are all implicitly player-facing, where in every other edition of D&D, magic items are treated as DM-facing content for the DM to decide what to do with. And so that proves to be significant, but we'll get to that in a minute. So our first big economy thing is what kinds of coins there are. because this is the first time we see a big shift in something as fundamental as what the denominations of currency are. Of course, I got to find it.
Well, remember, we saw small shifts. We saw small shifts in the very early days of the game. Remember, there was a shift from how much a silver is worth compared to a gold or copper piece, and how much a copper is worth compared to a silver as the additions went. But then it hit a sort of solidified amount right around 1e.
Right.
And that became the standard.
Right. And that standard is going to be restored when we get to 5th ed.
Right.
So on page 212 of the Player's Handbook, we have 5 monetary units, and as previously, copper and silver are here, and it's hard to point to why, because especially in 4th edition, like more energetically so in 4th edition than in any other edition of the game, nothing's priced in silver.
Right.
There's almost nothing you could even want to do that would be priced in silver. And then the exchange rates are standard. 10 copper is 1 silver, 10 silver is 1 gold. Wait, 1 gold is 100 gold to make 1 platinum. That's unusual. But we're not done. Platinum isn't the top of the denominations. We have astral diamonds, and it's 100 platinum to 1 astral diamond, and that just sort of came out of left field to me when I first opened this book. But as I played with it and things went on, I mean, I didn't have any games reach epic tier, not for lack of trying, but it didn't happen. I sort of did come to like the existence of astral diamonds. I've always liked the dead gods' bodies floating in the astral and getting mined by Githyanki kind of deal. Like that is just bizarre and awesome, and I love Githyanki, and here we are. So astral diamonds, yeah.
It gives a sort of origin, right? Origin's not the right word, but it basically says it doesn't really describe. It just says, people used copper, silver, gold, blah blah blah. But then it says astral diamonds in fantastic realms beyond the natural world. For example, the city of brass in the elemental chaos, the bright city in the astral sea, and the city of sigil. You have the astral diamond.
That's sigil, Sam. Sigil.
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 Anyway.
Sigil.
I believe we had this conversation on Twitter when Mike Shea accidentally pronounced Tharizdun as Tharzadoon. And,
I have no opinion on the chained god.
I also say Kraken instead of Kraken.
I have no opinion on the chained god, but the pronunciation of the city at the center of the Outlands, that is canonically not pronounced like the word.
Whatever. So anyway, I'm not dismissing your comment. I'm just saying I have pronounced it sigil since I was first exposed to the word, and so that is how I will pronounce it. I'm not going to make any attempt to change that. So anyway, well, I'll just call it
your wrongness and be wrong.
How about this? The City of Doors.
Sure. There you go. That'll work.
So I just want to point out that the you mentioned that nobody uses silver and copper and all that for anything, so why even have it? There's only one point in an adventurer's career where they do that, and that is actually there's 2 points. I take that back. The first one is right at the beginning, because some elements of the adventuring gear are listed with silver piece or copper piece values. The second place that you would use it is if you are in a tavern and you are purchasing, drinks or something. That is in silver or copper. But you very quickly outgrow the need to even use that unless you are playing a tavern-based game. And then it just everything else is gold, is in the gold
and
realm.
and it's true that even here in 4th Ed, some of the equipment items are listed in copper and silver, but there's not very many of them.
No, I fully agree. I'm just pointing out that it's not as if they list it on the table and then never mention it again. They just have some, obscure items that are,
But I think that the 100 to 1 platinum to gold exchange rate and the 100 to 1 Astral Diamond exchange rate is signaling early on what Paragon tier and Epic tier cash layout is going to look like. It's going to be real big.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The number is going to get real big.
It's so big that you can't carry enough gold pieces. That's why they had to, or even platinum pieces. That's why they had to move to Astral Diamonds, because Astral Diamonds weigh 500 diamonds to 1 pound. So you suddenly can carry a lot of currency at very low weight, which is not true of coins.
Yep. That's a real small diamond, but that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean...
Oh, it's there on the table. I see it. I just hadn't
It's an Astral Diamond.
Sure. I guess its weight is primarily conceptual anyway.
I think in Sigil they don't care.
So funny you should mention that. I
just have one thing to say. Some of our fans want us to argue about things on this podcast because we named it Edition Wars, and here we're having an argument.
Sure.
So fans, this one's for you.
Right? So my friend Colin ran a 4th edition game that was set in Sigil, the City of Doors. Mm-hmm. It was a primarily investigation-based game, and one of the earliest mysteries that we were called upon to solve was about an Astral Diamond. So we're playing like 4th or 5th level characters at this point, and we are investigating the theft of an Astral Diamond because it doesn't even have to be big. It's a phenomenal amount of money, for people living in, I think, the Clerk's Ward maybe. But that was a really interesting campaign where Colin spent a lot of time developing and exploring what could be done with skill challenges to kind of get some of the kinks out. Anyway.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's coinage. And then I think one of the other really big economic things that comes from the player's handbook, there's a few more, but this is sort of a big one, is that you're expected to improve not just the enchantment on an existing suit of armor, but potentially the physical suit of armor. You're supposed to go out and buy a better material, maybe. And so every grade of armor, and armor is broken up into 6 grades here: cloth, leather, hide, chainmail, scale, and plate. Each of those has 2 upgrades listed in the player's handbook, and there's whole charts of other upgrades later on. But you go from cloth armor to fey weave armor, and so on, and to a certain degree, this carries a monetary cost, but it all sort of gets tucked into the cost of the magic item. In a way, it's a little baffling to me. Like I don't know if they ever come out and explain it in a way that makes sense to me, though they do try. I just find it sort of stymieing. Anyway, I think that like those improved materials are an implicit part of the at least the in-character economies of those of the D&D worlds that we're using in 4th edition, even if the mechanical economy downplays their real importance to a certain extent.
Right. I feel like
they're basically additional points of armor, and then there are later enhancements that are additional points of non-armor defenses.
Right. I think the idea was they wanted everything to feel like it had a customization option or an upgrade option.
Right. I think that's pretty fair.
And so they wanted it to be fair. They didn't want to not give any for cloth armor and give a whole bunch for scale armor and a couple for plate. They wanted it to be consistent feeling in the player's handbook.
Right. And I definitely do think that having an equal number of kinds of improvement for everything is good. One of the striking things about it is, and this is a big meta economy point that we're going to have to talk about anyway, but how to say this? So, all right, if you start with cloth armor, you could pay a feat to go up to leather armor proficiency. Don't. This is not mostly a good idea. You can buy feats to move up this chart, but it's always kind of a mug's game in 4th because even if you manage to improve your armor class, which is sort of a dubious proposition, the enchantments that are offered on each type of armor, the ones you're going to want are going to be on your original weight of armor. They're not going to be on the heavier armor that you spent a feat to get into.
Right.
And like, if you're supposed to be in cloth, leather, or hide armor, then the ability scores that your class relies on are going to make that work for you, because you're going to either have good dex or good int, or you'll have a feature that lets you apply a different stat to your armor class, such as the Avenger does. Likewise, if you are in chainmail, scale, or plate armor, then you are never going to be expected to have a good dex or int. It also means you even though you have proficiency in cloth, leather, and hide armor, because in a nod to, let's call it realism, you always have proficiency in lighter armors in 4th edition.
Right.
You're never going to want to do that. It's always going to be a bad bet for you because of those same things, right? Both on the enchantment side and on the ability scores you can afford to make good side.
Right. Well, and the thing is that this chart, even though I just talked about how it's trying to make everything customizable or whatever, visually that's what that's what I think they were going for. But when you start looking later on at the enchantments and the different magic items and all that stuff, it becomes clearer that, oh, this is where the customization is for my character. It's not whether I am good enough to find Feyweave armor that's cloth armor. It's the enchanted armor that I end up getting or creating.
Right.
And that's where that customization comes in, which is why, and so that sort of is a circular way for me to say, so they didn't even need this. Most of this feels like it should have just been flavor.
Well, so what's literally going on in this chart is math correction through armor bonus. Right?
Sure.
Sure. And like, we've talked about the fact that there are fundamental problems in attack math in 4th edition. Well, this is where they remember to fix it on the defense side, because they'd have the same problem, at about the same times if they hadn't done this. And just the proof is when these bonuses show up, because they're showing up when you have a minimum enhancement bonus of +4 and +6. That approximately means 15th level and 25th level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I do want to go ahead and talk about the whole deal of magic items, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I was just looking at the weapons table to see if there's anything of interest there, and I don't think. I mean,
the weapons table itself is fairly straightforward. In economic terms,
right? It's pretty standard.
The prices are fairly pick a number out of a hat, but within a certain range. There's nothing to really get into there. But then you get to magic items, and like there's a chart on page 223 that in a certain way kind of tells you up front everything you need to understand about how magic items are going to get priced.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and then there's a chart on 225 that tells you everything you need to know about enhancement bonuses on those said magic items.
Yeah.
So let's take a little digression here, because this is probably one of the most controversial things about 4th edition. And I know you kind of mentioned that earlier, but sitting here looking at this page, this created a lot of rage in some players. Because this took things out of the hands of the dungeon master and explicitly says, here is exactly how magic items work. Here's what their bonuses are. Here's how much gold they're worth. Here's how much you should be able to sell them for if you get something you don't like. Here's how to identify them. Here's the different categories. Here's exactly how much residuum you will get out of it if you disenchant it, which we'll talk about later. And here is what the enhancement bonus should be for any given item at a given level. And that used to be the sole purview of the dungeon master.
Right.
And this is the only edition that has an entire section in the player's handbook that just lays this out. What's this, page 223 to page... where's the end of this section? To page 254. So 30 pages, densely packed with magic items.
Yep.
Every other edition has the magic items sequestered away from the player so that they don't necessarily know what's going on.
Yep. But the thing that's striking about magic item prices is that they are explicitly just the result of item level. They're not. There's no concept of a naturalistic pricing.
Right.
Where in third we talked about how like the price, if the overall bonus value of both like AC bonuses and enchantment effect equivalent value or whatever, if that added up to +5, then it was priced as a +5 item. And likewise for weapons, but twice as much. Well, this is sort of stripping it down further to this item has an item level. It's scaled from 1 to 30, and each item of a given level has a immediately knowable price. So a first level item is worth magic item is worth 360 gold. End of story. And so that scales up from 360 at first level to 3,125,000 at 30th level. Likewise, it tells you on this chart what you were going to be able to sell it for. Your attempts to negotiate are adorable, but wasted. And I kind of get why they did that, but I don't love it. Right?
They did it. They did it because the economy and the math balance they were going for are integrated in 4th edition. Because if you are going to have magic items that are worth some value, but you want to keep everything as tightly balanced as they were trying to keep 4th edition, then you have to have some sort of standardization, and this is it. I'm not saying that it's correct or that it doesn't fall apart at higher levels, but this was the attempt at it.
Yep. Well, and the sale price is also just straight up linked to the disenchant value of residuum.
Right, exactly.
And that just, it grates at me. Man, that gets under my skin, because it means that the disenchanting process is just a skin, right? It's strictly cosmetic. It is letting you turn the magic item into gold pieces that look like dust instead of gold pieces.
Right.
So it means the privilege of the ritual is that you have a merchant in your pocket. And I just need that to be more hidden for me to experience the game as I want to experience it. It just is the kind of thing that, if this hadn't been player facing, it would have been a little bit more okay. Because I'm used to the DM seeing the wireframes, but this is showing the players the wireframes, and that just still gets under my skin. Anyway, as you were saying,
well, so here's the other interesting thing. Well, maybe interesting is going a little bit too far, but when it talks about residuum, it says in some exotic locales, residuum is traded as currency, measured by weight and carried in small metal vials. It's a convenient way to transport large sums of wealth. 10,000 gold pieces worth of residuum weighs as much as a single gold piece and takes up only slightly more space. So 1 pound of residuum is worth 500,000 gold pieces and fits in a belt pouch. So here's the thing about that. Why not put that on the currency table?
Yeah. That's super fair.
Why do you need astral diamonds and residuum?
Yeah.
Why not? And I think that's part of, they did this, but then it's disconnected from the currency, but then you're going to say it's like currency and you're going to expect people to use it like currency.
Well, except that this is, the residuum is going to get expressed in gold piece value because you mostly don't carry it in a standard unit of weight.
Oh, sure.
Right? Yeah. And that's kind of their issue. The reason to have astral diamonds is because you don't say, I have 500,000 gold pieces in astral diamonds. You say, I have this many astral diamonds.
Right.
And not having to reconvert everything down to gold pieces is a mercy in a narrative sense. In the same way that when you're going through spell components, valuable spell components in 3rd or 5th or whatever, and they're always expressed in a gem worth this much,
right?
And the game just needs you to never ever think about how fluid the worth of a gem or an art object can be. Right.
Yep. Yeah, go someplace where everything is made of rubies, and that ruby is not worth very much.
Right.
But if you go someplace where rubies are highly prized and very, very rare, that ruby's worth more than it is in the modern day. So,
right. And the spells just presuppose that value is absolute, and then forget that they can't trust adventure writers to stick to that. I don't know.
Well, but see this. But I mean, so this residuum has the same problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
So, right, and so, but I guess my only point is, with something that is so tightly controlled that you're giving the players these tables, and then you introduce the residuum the way that they did, it's almost a stumble.
Well, it would have been really interesting to me if all rituals required residuum, not gold. There's no other components you can use to power a ritual. It has to be residuum, and so like rituals don't come online until the first time you are able to slag a magic item.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like it's a problem because the game wants you to have low level rituals, and
Right.
I get that. And disenchant doesn't come online until 5th, I think.
Right, but here's also the other problem with this. Like, if you are interested in a game where divine magic is a different thing than arcane magic, then residuum being the result of disenchanting any magic item, regardless of what the nature of its magical forces were, then that obliterates your idea. Because I happen to, in my homebrew worlds, there's always a difference between arcane magic and divine magic. Not just in the mechanics of, oh well, arcane casters have to have spell books, and you know what I mean. Now, I don't mean those differences. I mean the actual nature of the magic itself is different. So why would you have a magic item that's enchanted, quote unquote enchanted, filled with this particular type of magic versus this other particular type of magic? But if you get rid of both of those, they both give you the same output at the end, and it's called residuum. That doesn't make any sense to my homebrew worlds.
Yep. I think that like even something as comparatively minor as adding one more residuum parallel material, but that comes from divine magic items. Maybe there's another that comes from primal magic items. I don't know your life. That would start to introduce some nuance and like I don't know, arbitrage is maybe what you do with it, but it, there's the beginning of something you call a crafting system, and part of the whole economy here is that it is a crafting system, but not much of one, because once you get the enchanted magic item ritual, there's so little that the game provides you on the flavor front. Like it just requires the players and the DM to do 100% of the work of giving that any flavor. That for a lot of my experience, it was treated as vending machine.
Right. Well, it's okay. I cast this ritual.
Right. It was as interesting and flavorful as a vending machine. Like that's like I found a lot to love in 4th edition. We're right now talking about one of the things that worked for me the least. So please don't take away the impression, listeners, that I didn't like 4th edition. While I was running it, I loved it, and I think it does a lot right. This isn't one of those things.
Sure. I mean, I think that's true of any edition, right? I mean, I like certain editions more than I like other certain editions.
Sure.
And there are various reasons for that, but I like all of them, right? Like, I like all of them. I love D&D, okay?
Sure.
I like all of them. But there are some I like more than others. And even the ones I really like, even my favorite, has issues. Because that's just, that's just what it is. But to get back to this and not digress too much, I feel like, yeah, it's a vending machine. You're right. And that's part of the reason why this is one of the most controversial sections in the game. Because not only did they just hand the book over and put every possible, at the time, magic item into it and let the players see every single thing about it. They're peeking behind the curtain, right? Like it's the Wizard of Oz. Here's the curtain. Oh, but instead of being a curtain that you're not supposed to get access to, here it is. It's your walk-in closet. Come on in and have a pick. Pick whatever you want to have out of there.
Right.
And then at the same time, we're also going to make the crafting system and the idea of something called residuum so shallow that the customization that you could get is lost. So instead, it becomes a Sears catalog that you pick from.
Yep.
And if your DM doesn't really want to give you the one that you want, you just have to gather enough items that eventually you disenchant them all and build the one that you do want. Whereas that's very antithetical to D&D to a lot of people, because a lot of games, I would say a large portion of games, are fetch quests to get the magic sword, the magic armor, the magic whatever, kill the whatever to get this great item they have, because that's the one everybody wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you already know everything that exists, because here it is right in the player's handbook, that's the nature of that
Right.
dissatisfaction with this with this section of the book.
Right. And like the absence of mystery and the sense of well, I have this idea for a build that needs this one magic item. Like,
mm-hmm. Right.
So look, I know of games, other tabletop games where this is the default assumption, right? So you go over to the One Ring, and their equivalent of magic items are literally just power-ups that you choose when you get to choose power-ups.
Right.
Like, that's a kind of advancement that you just pick as part of advancing. You get your item, cool, go. But the concept of it being treasure is fundamentally lost to me.
Mm-hmm.
It is just like a new class ability at that point. Right. This item is intrinsic to me. Obviously, it can't be taken away because, now you're taking away my experience points. No, friend, no.
Right.
Like, magic items, like, I don't want to see GMs who take them away all the time, but magic items being able to go away, well, it's certainly intrinsic to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Just as an example. I mean, things would have been pretty different for my boy Isildur if Anduril, Flame of the West, had maybe not been shattered under the boot of Sauron. I'm just going to throw that out there. Mm-hmm. And there was this one dude who really wanted to get rid of a ring. Like, that is the farthest anyone has ever gone to get rid of a class feature.
Right.
And I'm not really even meaning to go after the One Ring. It's a wonderful game. I love what it does, but I don't understand that approach because it can't do the thing that I love about receiving treasure. The emotional reward loop of receiving treasure is broken for me if you do that. And 4th edition is putting that emotional reward loop at risk. It isn't necessarily breaking it because the DM can still give you something other than what you expected, and maybe you figure out how to make it work. But
or maybe you're disappointed.
And feeling disappointed with treasure is really dangerous for the emotional reward loop of D&D. I've talked about that a lot, but it really comes up here, right?
And not only that, but let me give you a specific example. On page 231, there's something called Tomb Forged Armor. Okay, it's a level 14 plus magic set of armor. And at the top of it, it has a flavor text. It says, "This armor is constructed around a single link from the burial armor of a hero dead at least 100 years. Okay. You know what that is? That sentence right there? That's a hook for an adventure.
Could be. Yeah.
But since this is in the player's handbook and is right there for the players to see, they lose that ability to have that as some fascinating hook or some piece of lore in the world. And now the DM has to do some work to change this enough that it's not recognizable if the player happens to flip to that page and read it.
Right.
But yet still meaningful within the terms of the game.
Right.
Or the DM has to take, the idea of a wish list that the players give the DM for whatever armor and weapons and other magic items they want. The players give the DM a wish list, and then the DM, awards those throughout the campaign. If there's something really cool on one of those wish lists, now the DM does the work of putting that thing into the campaign to make it part of the quest or make it part of a treasure package or treasure parcel or something, right? But maybe that's not the DM's conception of the world that they were in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like you now have to kludge some of these magic items that the players want into the setting. And every one of these magic items has like some kind of little flavor text up at the top that, like, they could have turned that section into just a list of hooks to get your players interested in trying to get this item. They could have put that in the DMG, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
if your players put this item on, if here's the list of magic items that your players know about because they're in the PHB. If your players put those on their wish list, here's how you could make that part of your story. Like, that would have been a book I would have bought.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I feel like not only does it take out it takes out that mystery part, but it also takes out some of the DM fiat that's inherent in figuring out what the players find when they defeat a foe.
So did we talk about the way that all magic items have a new version of themselves 5 levels higher? Did we get into that?
No, we have not mentioned it. I've been fastidiously avoiding it.
Well, I'm gonna put my thumb in it then. So that's a thing, right? So as a way to restore some emotional hook in this item, you don't necessarily just like outgrow an item at a certain level, right? So to use your example of Tomb Forged Armor, like you said, its lowest level version is 14th level. There are items that start at first level. There are items that start at 26th level or 29th level or whatever. But if there's 5 more levels to go up, then there's a high level version in 5 levels that is better in some way. So with Tomb Forged Armor, the 14th level version has a +3 enhancement bonus to armor. The 19th level version is +4, 24th level is +5, 20th level is +6, and they repeat the whole magic item cost structure result from that chart that I mentioned.
Right.
And then Tomb Forged Armor is an enchantment that only works on chain, which follows from the flavor text. And then it grants resist 10 necrotic. So the first 10 points of necrotic damage from each attack that come in, you shave off, you just knock off 10. Great. In the 24th and 29th level versions, that's resist 15. Great. Because, damage values go up. You don't want that 10 to stop mattering because you're now an epic tier. So 15, sure. And then it also has a daily power that has the healing keyword. So as an immediate interrupt, which we now call a reaction, you can use this power when an ally within 5 squares of you takes damage. You spend a healing surge but regain no hit points. Instead, the ally regains hit points as if he or she had spent a healing surge. Okay, so this is on chain armor, and that's done with intent, right? And the intent is this is for clerics.
Right.
And maybe also warlords? I think warlords.
Probably any leader.
Well, not any leader, because bards eventually. Like that's one of the weird things about all that stat stuff I mentioned, right? Later classes don't necessarily have the same itemization goals, and warlords and warlords are also going after chainmail. So right, like this is an incredible item if you're a leader. It's another way to use a ranged heal, and that's a super big deal in 4th edition. Like that's your expected combat functionality. In theory, a fighter could be wearing this armor and use this, but he mostly needs his healing surges for himself.
Right.
because his job is to get hit in the face for a living.
Right. And also this is where the other way that links, pun intended. This is also chainmail, because any fighter worth their salt is not wearing chain. They're going to be wearing plate. Something else.
No, they specifically wear scale.
Okay, well, that's what I said, or something else, right?
So plate is reserved to paladins. That's one of the other weird things. Fighters don't get proficiency in plate. Paladins are the only class that gain plate proficiency.
Okay, so here's where I was going with this. If you look right below Tomb-Forged Armor, right, it's available for hide or scale. It also has a healing daily power.
Yep.
Okay, but that healing daily power lets the wearer gain regeneration. You don't pass the healing off to someone else. You get the healing.
Yep. That troll skin armor is only for hide or scale. So skipping
fighters, right? Yeah. So that's the thing, right? So the reason I'm pointing that out is because it's actually really well designed. I mean, they're telling you it's supposed to be telegraphing for you who it's really intended for, without having to say class restriction. This is only for whatever, right?
Right.
Because they also knew that later on there would be more classes added, and they didn't want to have to go back and retcon all. Despite all of the errata they did end up issuing,
right.
They were trying to not do that by using these specific keywords and types.
Right. But they're also going to run into places where that doesn't suit their narrative for the class anymore.
Exactly. That's absolutely right. So it's
putting Avengers in cloth armor is still a weird move to me, but what can you do? Just because they so want to be in leather with rogues. They are rogues in all but name. So, I love Avengers. They're one of my favorite classes to come out of 4th, along with Warlords.
And I would wager that part of the impetus for the advantage-disadvantage mechanic is Avengers. Everybody loves rolling 2d20.
Oh, yeah, that's not even a question. For sure it is.
But they can only wear cloth.
Anyway, but
I think that choice was so that they didn't have an enormously high AC.
Except they wound up giving them a feature to improve their AC.
Right. Well,
it lets them apply their wisdom bonus to AC a bit.
Right.
So they fix the AC and then refix it. Come on now.
Well, no. So the thing is, but they give them the bonus because they wanted them to have that wisdom AC, wisdom bonus. So if you give them really high armor in the first place, then that wisdom bonus feature is what propels them beyond their balance numbers for the AC. That's why they had to do that.
It's just most of the cloth armor that existed at that point would do the Avenger no good, because they're a weapon using class and not, dress wearing casters.
Right.
Anyway, we don't need to relitigate this. It's fine.
No. I know. But my point here with this is what they were trying to do didn't necessarily come through, because putting the magic items in the player's handbook really was a sore spot for a lot of people, and there are problems with it, and we have discussed some of them. Some of the good things, though, is that they were trying to make it so that some of these things were keyed in a way that it was really obvious what makes sense for each particular character, which one they would choose, or which one would. That way, when if the DM is not asking for wish lists, they can go to this book and say, okay, this would be really good for this player because it has this type, it has this power, it has whatever, and try to make it easy. And I don't know how successful they were at it, but I see the attempt and I appreciate it, because it's an amazing piece of design, even if not all the way successful.
Yep. So right, there was one more thing I wanted to say about magic items that affects the economy. They wanted to get rid of what they call the Christmas tree effect from 3rd edition.
Right.
The Christmas tree effect or situation in 3.0 and 3.5 is that you have all these different item slots and all these different types of bonuses. A dodge bonus, an enhancement bonus, and so on. a luck bonus. And a big part of the system mastery of 3.5 is filling every item slot and then coordinating all the bonuses so they stack instead of conflict.
Right.
So you don't have two different natural armor bonuses to AC, right? You have to be really careful about that kind of thing. Right. So you want to fill all these different item slots, and then level up those items as best you can. If they're leveled items, which a lot of them are, they're going to be, either +2, +4, +6, or +1 through +5, whatever really. And that's a big driver of play, because all those different items are their own sort of gold piece progression tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to get rid of that because they felt like it was really muting the value of your character's abilities, right? You were your magic items maybe more than you were the stuff in your class progression. And for fighters, considering how little there is in the class other than you get feats, that's probably a fair cop. So in 4th, you have your weapon slot, your armor slot, and then I think it's either a shield or a cloak, isn't it? So arms slot, right? Shields and bracers. That's right.
Oh, right. That's what it is. Yeah. I was like, wait, no, a cloak? You can wear a cloak.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense. But
yeah.
Arms, right? Yes. You either have a shield or you have bracers.
Right. Can't have both. Right.
And then feet, hands, head, neck, and then necks are either cloaks or amulets, right? And rings, and waist and wondrous items. So that sounds like a long list, but in comparison, it's not. Because there's a lot of item slots in 3rd. On the other hand, all of these are leveled items, with just a tiny number of exceptions. There are so very few magic items that aren't leveled. So hand slot items are mostly not leveled, but there's some few that are. Feet slot items are mostly not leveled, but I'm sure in later books there are some that are. But like for the most part, you're getting back on that XP progression, the gold piece progression treadmill for all these items, and that's your life now. Or you're waiting for something better to come along, and you're only using this item because your GM handed you something that you don't care about.
Right. But you have nothing else for that slot, so you're going to use it right now.
Right. And then the last piece of the economy in 4th edition is rituals. If you're only familiar with rituals from 5th, well, the thing about rituals in 4th is that they cost money. They always have a component cost. It might be as little as 10 gold pieces or whatever, or it could be a phenomenal amount of money, but they always cost money. And they they're kind of like a grab bag of class features that you only get if you are a ritual caster, either for having bought the feat that makes you a ritual caster or having it from a class feature. But you might be able to use the same rituals as someone else. And honestly, given how class features work in 4th, actually sharing something like that is unusual. In terms of real class features, like Rangers and Rogues are completely dissimilar in every way. They have nothing in common. Which seems a little strange if you're used to Rogues and Rangers from other editions of D&D, but it's true here. They're both martial strikers, and that's all they have in common. Anyway, there's all these rituals. Some of the money you get from all of your adventuring is going to go to funding rituals that clear problems out of your way or give you some other kind of advantage. For the most part, these aren't going to have direct combat implications, but they're going to help you in social situations or exploration situations or investigation situations, or they're going to help you recover from combat after the fact. So you have cure disease, you have your raise dead, you have that whole set of things. And then you have enchant magic item like we've been talking about, and that starts at 4th level, so that means you have to be at least character level 4 to cast it, and it opens up the whole world of converting gold pieces into magic items. Then disenchant starts at 6th, and it does the obvious. It creates residuum for you in a gold piece value that is 20% of the value of the magic item, which is going to be the same as the sale price. It's just that you sold it for a fine powder rather than gold coins.
Right.
And presumably, if you are the mother of Jack and the Beanstalk, you're now very disappointed.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the beating heart of 4th edition's economy. And it seems sort of weird to say it, but like the elements of the economy that show up in the DMG are pretty limited. It's really just kind of, here's how much treasure to hand out. Here's what we're talking about with treasure parcels. Your party will get about 10 treasure parcels per level, and they should be about this big at each given level. It's offering guidance on when to hand out magic items and how good they should be. Right?
Yep.
And if like me, you've been playing since 2nd, or if like Sam, you've been playing since 15 minutes before the game released.
You trying to say I'm old?
Yes, that's accurate. So old.
So old, I know Sigil's true name,
but not how to pronounce it. Look, I get that you were there when the Lady of Pain kicked Eoskar out. That's really cool. Like, that's awesome for you. But you should have paid attention in class. So right. For us old timers, there's a feeling that it is taking away some of the GM's art. I think some of that sense of weirdness and wonder. Certainly, we've talked about sort of Gygax's sense of gotcha magic items. Like, boy, did he ever love a cursed magic item. And 4th edition just doesn't really have time for that.
Well, later, but
when you get into some of the items with concordance, your artifacts and such, those you could reasonably call cursed, but for the most part, we're not going to engage with the idea of cursed items in 4th until then, right?
Yeah, I think there was a Dragon Magazine article, wasn't there? Chris Sims talked about cursed magic items. But yeah, I mean, what you're saying is correct, right? It's a different sort of, it's different from the, as you said, the gotcha kind of cursed items, that existed in previous editions in a way that was sort of, you could foist them upon the PCs. Because also the thing is, part of the reason why those went away in 4th edition, if we're actually talking about reasons why, if all the players know there's this huge list of magic items and they're putting in their own wish list, they are not likely to find a magic item in a treasure parcel and not try to identify it before they use it and accidentally get stuck with it. You know what I mean?
Right. That whole approach to
Yeah.
things is just sort of gone from the process.
Yeah.
Like, reading this out loud will not help it be clear, but you have to understand that there are 4 pages in the DMG, page 126 through 129, where at each level it spells out what the 10 parcels should be, more or less. That's specified down to the level of 1 5th level magic item, 1 4th level magic item, 1 3rd level magic item, 1 2nd level magic item, and so on. And those are each separate parcels at first level. And then, it gets into the money and how the money breaks down, gems, art items, that kind of thing. They're trying to only show this amount of wireframe to the DM, but it does give a very paint by numbers feel to everything, in my view.
Yeah. So just as a follow-up to the last conversation, there's a cursed item section in Mordenkainen's Magnificent Emporium. It says, cursed magic items were a mainstay of older editions of the D&D game, much to the Dungeon Master's delight and players' occasional frustration. Blah, 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 blah. It talks about it. Cursed items cannot be detected by any means. A character can use a cursed item normally, sometimes for weeks, until its curse is triggered. That's the way to get them to accidentally use a cursed item, is you make it look like, you describe it as if it is the thing that they wanted, right? And then suddenly something triggers, right? And then it gives some examples of curses that you can place on different items. For example, there's an Armor of Powerlessness curse. The trigger is the wearer misses with a daily attack power that has a power source other than martial. And then the effect is, until the end of the encounter, the wearer cannot use daily attack powers that have a power source other than martial. In addition, when the wearer misses with an at-will attack power that has a power source other than martial, he or she loses the ability to use that power again until the end of the encounter. So it's basically a utility power. Yeah.
That's horrible.
It's a utility power that's an encounter power that actually penalizes the PC. And it has a trigger that can be triggered whenever in any given encounter that trigger. So here's another one, Bracers of Defenselessness. Also an encounter utility power. The wearer takes damage from a single attack greater than 5 plus his or her level. That's the trigger. The effect is, until the end of the encounter, the wearer takes a -2 penalty to all defenses and grants combat advantage, which means everybody gets a +2 to hit them. So these are not the typical, curses. These are not the typical cursed items that, that from the days of yore, right?
Right.
There's one called the Stone of Weight. You put it on an item for the next slot. When the wearer makes an attack that hits, suddenly the wearer's speed is halved until the end of the encounter. So.
Well, that is sort of traditional. The triggered effect, no. The that specific item, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that was sort of there's only like 3 or 4 pages there, and I think that was that was the attempt at, we're giving the DMs an option that they missed that has not been in the game previously, and so here it is. And that is preceded, by the way, by the whole artifact issue with the concordance and all that stuff, which is a different way to utilize items exerting power on the PCs that wield them. So Is there anything else about 4th edition that you want to talk
No,
about?
I think
We're
we're
running
good.
pretty long.
Well,
Yeah.
we did warn one another.
Yes, I know. I can't help but digress. So, and there's probably a whole lot we're missing in 4th edition in terms of different source books that introduced new ways to deal with that type of curse or whatever. And we are, with knowledge, skipping all of that stuff because really, this episode's not really about specifically here's how magic items were used in 4th edition. It's more about the economy that is forced onto the PCs and the DM because of the way the system was built. So I'm ready to move on to 5th if you are.
Yep. I was just reviewing the DMG2. There's a section on Sigil, the City of Doors. I want to see about our pronunciation guide.
I looked already. I was just looking at that a minute ago, and I did not see one.
All right, so in 5th edition, so
did you see it? Did you see where I couldn't find a place where it said the actual pronunciation?
No, I think that we have to go back to probably the second ed box sets to find something reliable on that. So
the
5th
outer
edition.
What was it, the Planeswalker's Guide to the Outer Planes or something came with a CD, and it told stories about the different things in it.
Well, I'm just going to point out there's something much more important as a source for Planescape that came with a CD. It's Planescape Torment.
Torment, yes, I know.
It's the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
The enhanced edition, guys, it's amazing. It's so good. The UI is so much better.
Anyway, so now let's go.
So 5th edition. One of the reasons I wanted to even talk about game economies across the editions is 5th edition, right? Because it's something that sees a lot of discussion online. What do you do with your gold pieces in 5th ed? And in one way, that's a pretty good question, because 5th edition does away with easy and direct magic item enchanting to improve your gear, right? There's really not much of a sense at all that I have maybe I have a flame brand sword, right? That's a phenomenal magic sword, but I can't go to an enchanter and pay him a pile of gold and have it now be +1 better.
Right.
That's not a thing. And that's super weird. It's super weird in D&D. Now, it's nominally true in second ed and earlier editions, but man, it broke my brain when I saw that, and just, this doesn't have an improvement option. In theory, all flame brand swords are this. How about that? And this isn't disapproval. It just came as a huge shock to me. And there are just +1 sword, +2 sword, +3 sword magic items, right? That's a thing, but it has no other feature than its base plus, and same for armor and shield, right? But that content has moved back to the DMG, just to be clear. And so within the player's handbook, there's very little that gets into the economy in any meaningful way. You've got your equipment tables. That's great. You've got your starting wealth, and we're back to what I would call classic denominations
Coinage.
of D&D, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 10-to-1 system at each step of the way up. Aside from Electrum, you have Electrum back. It's your 5 silver. Good, great, fine. Electrum has shown up mainly in my campaign as a plot widget.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As I made the PCs alloy a phenomenal amount of gold and silver to carry out a ritual. I was a jerk.
Right.
All this gold that you have needs to go away in this ritual. I hate you. So right, you've got your, like, we go back to a lifestyle expenses table, which
Right.
is a price per day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to get repeated over in the DMG, but as a per week maybe, or per month. Anyway, per day is wretched for free, squalid for 1 silver, poor for 2 silver, modest
Right.
for 1 gold, comfortable for 2 gold, wealthy for 4 gold, aristocratic for 10 gold pieces minimum, but
Per day. Right.
yeah,
I
you could
mean,
obviously go up from there.
yeah.
And that's interesting to me mostly because I find that in listening to Matt Mercer and other actual play GMs, when the PCs are spending money at a tavern or whatever, like that 10 gold piece minimum gets passed real fast.
Right. Right.
There's a sense of inflation in the GM's mind as well as in the players' minds, and so something that the equipment tables might price at a few coppers, the GM thinks about how much money the players have and knows that 1 gold is still nothing to them, so they just round
Right.
up from 3 copper to a gold,
Mm-hmm.
or
Right.
3 gold, or whatever. And the players pay it without thinking twice, even though
Right.
it's a 1,000% markup or whatever.
Yep.
10,000% markup. Anyway,
Yeah.
not important right now.
But I mean, that's, yeah. I think part of the issue with that is there is no real idea of how the economy affects the world around the PCs, right?
Sure.
It's like that idea of, well, if they go into a tomb and they pull out 20,000 gold pieces worth of treasure and they take it to the little village that they've been, adventuring out of for a couple of months, they're going to destroy the economy of that village.
Sure.
Not as in, oh, they took all the money out, they stole everybody's money. That's not what what I mean is, if they pump that 20,000 gold pieces worth of items into that economy, it's going to change the way that town works.
It is, and
so to avoid that, then you just inflate it in your mind. Well, now that you're here, everybody knows you have money. A pint of ale costs you a gold piece now.
right. And if you want to run everything as sort of a boomtown, that's fine. But that sort of remains up to the DM, and I think that trying really hard to write mechanics around that is probably going to be a mistake.
Sure. Unless your game is focused a lot on the economic realities of being a treasure hunter and finding treasure quite frequently, as happens in D&D,
Right.
not the same as in real life, then, I mean, have you ever seen The Curse of Oak Island? I mean, how much money have these guys pumped into,
Yeah.
to trying to get the gold out of there when it's not, there might not be anything there. And they've spent millions of dollars. So that's not what our characters are doing. Our characters are walking out a few miles from town and risking their lives and bringing back possibly hundreds to thousands of gold pieces worth of stuff.
Right. Well, and the Curse of Oak Island is sort of the perfect real world example of what I was talking about back in First Ed, with the purpose of money is to make it possible to go get more money.
Right, exactly.
Like Curse of Oak Island is the bad outcome, where you throw money at trying to solve this adventure
Mhm.
generation over generation, and it just doesn't work.
Right. And it never ends up. Yes, exactly.
So the other things that really engage the economy at all are downtime activities, crafting. There are rules for magical crafting. It's just that they take so long in in-game calendar time that
Right.
your character's gonna like whatever was going on that you were trying to solve with that magic item is gonna be solved some other way. It's not really super usable. Then practicing a profession, and this is interesting because it doesn't pay you money; it pays your lifestyle.
Expenses. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting that it doesn't change the gold pieces on your character sheet by default, and also fascinating that if you have proficiency in the performance skill and put your performance skill to use during your downtime, you earn enough to support a wealthy lifestyle instead. I can think of so many musicians who would like a word.
Right.
They would like a word.
Yes.
And then
and right behind them are all my artist friends, and then all my writer friends, and
well, speaking as one of your writer friends, I should have bought performance. That shit's on me. I should have made a different decision. So then you also have recuperating and researching and training. Researching and training are both interesting because they are cost sinks. For each day of research, you must spend 1 gold pieces to cover your expenses, in addition to your normal lifestyle expenses, which researching doesn't implicitly cover. So you need a research grant, frankly.
Right.
Like I like that they made answering questions, even if it's not terribly costly, it still costs money. That's kind of cool.
Right.
And then training is actually adding more proficiencies to your character sheet, so that definitely costs money, and I think that's cool. Then over in Xanathar's Guide to Everything,
that's what I was looking at right now.
This whole section, I actually don't have that in front of me. This whole section gets revamped with new actions and more ways to throw money at the story. It's not even necessarily to solve your problems. It's just you're kind of turning money into new content in a way, and that's pretty cool.
So what it does is it talks about downtime activities, and it talks about how to resolve those activities, how long it might take for those, and then any complications that the PC might have in resolving those. And it goes through some specific examples, buying a magic item, and it has these tables for you to figure out how much it's going to cost. So it's not related to just the level of the item that they're looking for, like it would have been in 4th edition. It has an example of carousing as a downtime activity, and then some complications, and it depends on whether you're in a lower, middle, or upper class area. It has crafting an item, so there's your crafting additional rules, although they're still pretty thin. Then it has crime, right? Gambling, pit fighting, relaxing, religious service, that is performing a religious service, doing research. Here's your research again.
Yep.
Although that section is much shorter because they have a lot more of it in the DMG. And then scribing a spell scroll and training.
Yep.
And so here's the thing about training. So training says you need resources. Receiving training in a language or tool typically takes at least 10 work weeks, but that's reduced by the number of work weeks equal to the character's intelligence modifier. Training costs 25 gold per work week, so that's not too expensive.
That's the same price as in the player's handbook, except that now it can be mitigated by your intelligence modifier.
Right. And complications arise while training typically involve the teacher. Every 10 work weeks spent in training brings a 10% chance of complication. And then you have these complication tables, then and then there's work. If you're just working, and then it tells you how much wages you'll earn depending on, what your actual lifestyle is. So, I mean, these items are only one column on a page. It's not like it goes into such extravagant detail that it makes for an extremely detailed system.
Right.
But what it does, I think, is it provides the DM with, and it calls them example activities, right? It provides the DM maybe with a framework for how to try to adjudicate or expand these if they so choose.
Mm-hmm.
But none of them
Yeah.
really, I mean, unless your game is including the players wanting to open a business in town, I'm not sure that it needs more than what it has right now.
Right, and the Dungeon Master's Guide does have rules for running a business on page 129, and there's a bunch of additional downtime activities here. Building a stronghold is really the big, cash sink.
Right.
Building a stronghold. Sure. There's another carousing option here that Xanathar's is revising.
Right, but even there, the building a stronghold is not even an entire column, right?
Right.
It's just a few paragraphs and then a table with roughly how much the construction cost and time will be.
Right.
So,
And there's running a business and selling magic items and sowing rumors and so on here, and that's all fine. But given all of this, to my mind, the best explanation for what do you do with all of this money in 5th edition, there are basically 3 answers, right? And you get to decide for yourself, how you engage with these. And the first is you pay your upkeep, and you actually encourage the DM to pay attention to that each day or each week or each month. My campaign uses upkeep as both a carrot and a stick to sustain some money pressure on the campaign. So secondly, you have all those downtime activities. The ones in Xanathar's, a lot of them cost money, and that's great. Researching and carousing are two very good ways to spend a bunch of your money and get some kind of narrative payoff for it. And that's the key. You need to care about the narrative payoff. You are turning money into narrative payoff.
Right.
That is, new content comes along, or you resolve old content, you get a lead on new content, whatever. You need to care about that. And then you can certainly build a stronghold. That's great. It's not going to automatically get you a retinue of warriors as it did in 1st and 2nd, but having a stronghold is cool, guys. There's nothing wrong with that. Matt Colville certainly has his book that tells you how to spend colossal amounts of money on buying a stronghold, and that's all to the good. But
and he's got a new one in the works, right? For
yep.
How to commit warfare with your stronghold.
Yep, Kingdoms of Warfare's coming along. Yep. Probably the best explanation is one that Dyson Logos has written about, which is figure out a character goal, something that your character cares about that probably isn't something you can just go easily stab. Then figure out how you're going to throw money at that for 20 levels. Okay, go.
Right. Wasn't there, I think, and Mike Shea talked about this, I think it was Storm King's Thunder has a place where there's a floating castle or a flying castle or something or was it Tyranny of Dragons? I can't remember.
Tyranny of Dragons definitely has a floating castle.
So I think in that game, I think his group ended up maintaining that castle and flying it around or whatever they needed to do. But that was a big money sink for them, was maintaining the integrity of that particular, stronghold that they basically inherited because of whatever the situation was in the game. I don't really remember the details. It was a few years ago. But that's one way, right? Is to make something in the game. If the players latch onto it and decide they want to deal with it, then you make that a money sink.
Right. For any DMs out there who are Stephen Brust fans, I just want it on the record that I could be a responsible user of Castle Black. Okay? I want that in the public record. I would be a responsible user of Castle Black. You should feel fine to give that to me, and I will definitely not wreck a campaign with it.
So noted.
Yeah. You can take that to the bank.
Yeah, so I think that Dyson Logos advice is really good, right?
Yeah, and he included a very long list of suggestions for things your character could care about but couldn't easily stab, and it ranged from I am a connoisseur of a weird hobby all the way up to I'm funding a kingdom, whatever.
Right.
And it's great. I don't know where to tell you to track it down at this point, other than his website, but it's worth looking for. And so that's actually kind of it for game economics in official release 5th. There's a lot of third-party content that touches on this. And it's also worth saying that in a setting like Eberron, you're going to be facing a lot more bureaucracy and just costs for travel as a normal part of life. And so, you have to pay a train fare to go to the adventure. Well, fair enough, I guess. You're going to be getting nickeled and dimed all throughout the campaign, and that's just part of the game. You're also going to be buying magical services because it's Eberron and people sell them, and maybe it is better to spend 200 gold pieces here or there than spend your own spell slot, or maybe you don't have that spell yet. Right? That's very written into Eberron, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a very different setting because of it. It runs very differently.
There also have been some significant fan efforts and third-party publisher efforts to adapt Birthright into 5th edition. We talked about Birthright back in the second ed episode.
Yep.
But a colossal amount of money is great for a kingdom because it's extra gold bars. Go nuts.
Right. Yep. In my game in particular, the players, the PCs have a ship because it's a water-based campaign. So they have a ship, so they have to pay their crew. They can't not pay their crew. And in fact, that's a point of contention right now because they haven't gotten a lot of gold. They found items, they found magical items, they found different things, but in terms of pure just value coinage, they don't have any. So how do they pay their crew? Right? It becomes something that requires attention.
Right. And in my campaign, the PCs all belong to a mercenary company. There are additional NPCs who are being paid by this mercenary company, and so a lot of the adventurers have as a core motivation, we need to go make money for the mercenary company so they can keep the lights on.
Right.
Like the PCs go into the adventure knowing that the mercenary company is going to take a 25% cut of whatever they profit from the adventure.
Right.
And that's just That's something that the players know from their first session. That's just campaign premise. But it does mean that I can hand out big treasures, and all the players still need money.
Right. Yep.
But I do also occasionally like to see some magic item shops with very limited selection. A magic item shop with, a full selection list that's between 5 and 10 items long, so the PC can buy the thing, but they don't get to just go decide what the shop has. Right. The shop has what it has. If you want the thing, then buy it. That's great. That to me is pretty reasonable and fair.
Sure. All right. Well, I think we might be done.
Yep. I think that pretty much wraps us for game economics. And I mean, I guess there are conversations we could have about how each individual setting tries to engage with the economy. Birthright and Eberron are sort of always going to be standouts there.
That and Dark Sun.
Right. Dark Sun integrates economy by not giving you any money or metal, and you're always going to be desperate, and that's life. And Dragonlance has different coinage, right? They have steel coins.
But I think that would actually be better talked about if we decided to do campaign setting specific episodes.
Right. And I think that it's pretty inevitable that someday we'll be having that conversation.
Sure. I think so too. Okay. Well, excellent. For the listeners, I hope that you have enjoyed our foray, our 4-episode arc into economies in your D&D game. If you would like to send us comments, questions, suggestions, or requests in terms of topics, you can send that email to dndbrief@gmail.com, and we would be happy to answer any questions or take your topic suggestions.
Also, if you can find the canonical reference that explains where it's pronounced Sigil, you should send that to Sam. You should also add him on Twitter with it. It would be very good. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, on that note, I will say goodbye.
Good night, everyone.